the table laughing at me.
Okay, we are live here now at the David Irie Foundation. We're doing our series Going to Bat with Team Irie. We have special guest tonight, Major League Baseball umpire Greg Gibson. This is our series of interviews. We've had, this is our 8th one. You can check it out for a schedule here at the foundation page at Team Irie, or some of our events that we have going on through the year. You can check it out here or our website, dif35.org. How you doing tonight, Greg?
I'm good, David. How are you, Bob?
I'm doing fine. Appreciate you being on here tonight. Got a few questions for you if you don't care, and we'll get it started with how long you've been umpiring in Major League Baseball and the process. How's the process of getting to the point where you are now in your life?
I left home January 1st, 1991. I went to umpire school. It's 5 weeks in Florida, which when you're 22 years old, that's really kind of cool. In November of 1990, I walked in on a Wednesday night. I remember it, and told my mom and dad I was quitting college to go to umpire school, which that didn't go over real well. No. But anyway, I left home with literally $300 in my pocket. And I went to umpire school, and that was 1991. Spent 8 years in the minor leagues, and then I've been in 1999. I signed my contract, and I've been in the big leagues ever since. So,
well, that's a pretty good ride. I know. I was reading earlier that in 2008 they started using instant replay, and of course, you were one of the first behind the plate umpires. During that game, I guess your game was one of the first games they used it at. What's your opinion of instant replay?
At first it was the, you're always not sure of the unknown. I'm still one of the old school guys. Everybody says, I hear people say, I don't like replay, this and that. It has good uses. I mean, when you're in my shoes, nobody wants to miss a game-ending play. And I've missed game-ending plays before replay, and you wear that. As we all know, there's plays out there that, have a name with it where an umpire made a mistake. It wasn't. I always love it when everybody says, "Oh, you kicked that call." Let me tell you something. I have never kicked a call. I've missed a call, but we don't kick calls. It always made every. And replay has changed the game where, especially in the playoffs, I've worked at a lot of playoff games. You don't want to be the headline. You don't want to be the story. You want the players to decide it. So. Is there things about it? I'm old school, but overall, it's done what it's needed to do, and we have welcomed it more than what the public realizes. There are things that we want to look at, but it's just it's not there. The competition committee hasn't made it there yet, so but it's not the boogeyman that we thought it was. I mean, it's actually, there's times when you're like, you walk off the field and you're like, as much as you hate to miss a call and put the headset on and all that, at the end, you're like, well, and there's times with some of them anymore. I remember, sitting in New York the first time I was a replay official for an ESPN Sunday night game. It was the first game ever in 4K. I turned around, looked at one of my supervisors in the room, and I said, I can't beat that. The replay room also, what we see in that room, you don't see at home. Those monitors, the bandwidth that they run on, that when we first got it, and then as it's evolved and gotten better, and it's getting better, that's what's amazing. The technology is actually getting better. We'll actually count the pebbles that you can on the screen. We'll freeze frame it after a call or something. And it's amazing. We see things on there, and it's like, and we always, it's funny when, we hear the teams will show obviously what the opposite is. And we've got a wide open view of the other feed because we get the home and the visiting feed. So, we see things sometimes they don't always see in the stadium, and everybody's losing their mind. And it's like, hey, this angle here shows clearly there's a tag. I mean, there's times that you look at some of them and you think, oh yeah, and then you look and it missed him by that. So we've welcomed it. Excuse me, it took time. I mean, I'm an old school guy. I had my, reservations about it. When I came to the big leagues, you got to remember every game wasn't on television. I'm still old enough to say that you had Wednesday night, you had Saturday, you had Sunday night, and you didn't TBS and WGN. That really was it. You didn't have the Fox broadcast, you didn't have regional Fox, you didn't have all that. So when that camera kicked on in center field on a Wednesday night game, and me being the young guy, I always worked the plate on Wednesdays and Saturdays or Sundays. I had the TV games because the old guys were like, and then to take it a step further, when the game started being on television, we would video record it, the VHS tapes, and my mom and dad had boxes. I mean, boxes of tapes, because when my first son was born, Kyle, I was Mr. Mom. I stayed home. My wife, Michelle's a teacher. She'd go to work, and I'd give Kyle a bottle, and I'd sit down and watch a plate job. I would sit down and watch, my game and try to learn from it. So my generation is welcome, but of course we had our doubts, but we've welcomed it, and it's very good for, you don't have a play named after you, and that's what we like.
And some of the instant replays, I mean, I've watched it on TV and live action, and some of these calls, like, there's no way I could have made that call. But then when you slow it down, of course, it's a lot easier, but that's not an option when you make the call in the field that you have. So,
and like I've said, our staff's very, very good. Our staff, our numbers, everybody wants to blow our numbers out. Our numbers are very good. And like I said, that 4K, I used to see that. Now not so much, but our guys top to bottom are incredible. And it's always funny because we have super, super slow-mo cameras in 4K. And when we, then it's like they show it back. It's like, well, how'd you miss that? And we're like, show it in full speed and see how you do. So, that's the thing about it, that the technology is there and we're embracing it and we're using it. And the really cool thing about when we go to replay, we talk a lot of umpiring in that room. We really, it's a classroom session every time, because we've learned that we can actually get better watching other guys work. So we take that time and when we're in replaying, it's become a real good teaching tool for our guys.
Yes, I know. Also, they said in 2013, I'll ask you about this. There was the championship, National League Championship game between the Cardinals and the Dodgers, and there's a little incident that happened on the field, I guess, right after the pregame ceremonies, and they said that's one of that incident made you very popular. Would you like to tell us what happened there?
Probably the biggest game I'd ever worked up to my career at that point, and I mean, I'd worked the World Series. I've got Game 6 NLCS. It's an elimination game. I mean, it's when you get to game, I've worked 5 league championships, and I've worked Game 4, Game 5, Game 6, and a Game 7, and those are hard. And that was the first time working a game. I worked Game 6, and we're getting ready to go, and Van Slyke and I think Joe Kelly, I can't remember who it was now. They're standing up. They're having this standoff at their national anthem. I mean, I can't remember who's pitching. He was itching to go. I mean, I can't right now, and I'm looking at Yachty, and they're all looking at me, and everybody's kind of laughing about it. And I'm like, let's go. I mean, so anyway, we now have a policy that if that happens, we throw them out, because, it had me really tore up for about the first 6 outs. I mean, because, how do you, it's the biggest game of my life. And it's like, we are routine guys. It's kind of like they threw my timing rhythm off, and it took me a little bit to gather myself and get it back together. And the biggest game, but I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'm looking at my crew chief. I'm looking at the rest of the crew, and nobody's moving. I'm like, crap, so I was just like, let's go. And someone snapped a picture of it, and it's in the office in there. My wife got it framed. And so, yeah, I mean, it was, anyway.
That was pretty cool. I see, I don't know if you can see the comment or not. John Holder up here says, glad to be here, David Irie. Thanks for coming on, Mr. Gibson. Sue Corn's watching. Danny Kyle Prater says, hi, David and Greg. Thank you both for bringing this to us. Kevin Dugan, he said, hey, guys, I was able to speak or sneak away long enough from work to join. He sat with you at the Diamond Dinner.
Okay.
That was a great story. And then Tommy Posey, Associates Cub Scout here in Maysville, he says go Cubs, but we usually don't pay attention to Tom. But anyway, I know you've been in some big games behind the plate. I know that you were behind the plate when Randy Johnson threw his perfect game and Clayton Kershaw threw the no hitter. I mean, we have no idea how something like that would feel. I mean, how great of an experience is that?
When it's over.
Yeah.
When it's over. I'd had 2 perfect games if Hanley Ramirez hadn't made an error in the top of the 6th. I mean, he bobbled a ball and had an error. So, it's one of those things where the first time going through it, I was on the field with Jerry Davis. He gives me the slow your timing down. It was just one of those things. And then with Kershaw, you just kind of knew that night. So, I've taken Darvish. I had a perfect game with him going into the top of the 7th. I maybe top 7, top 8. I had a perfect game going with him. So it's just one of those things. I've been lucky. There's guys work their whole career, 30 plus years, and they never work a perfect game. They never work a no-hitter. So to have on my resume a perfect game and a no-hitter like Kershaw threw, it was really kind of cool. So one of the things that was really neat about the perfect game was at the time working third base was Larry Poncino. He was third base umpire. And the last perfect game in the National League, I think it was like 1989, Larry worked that. It was Dennis Martinez's perfect game. So Larry had, the last game and then the big span and then to be at third base. I mean, when we walked off the field that night, he was a big Italian guy. He waylaid on me all the way up the tunnel, beating on my back. Way to go, kid. Proud of you, kid. Way to, Larry just, he big Italian guy. And he just, I had bruises all over me from Larry beating on me up the tunnel. So, but it was really kind of neat. You get, and now if somebody works a perfect game, there's a group of us. There's, I think, 12 of us alive, 13 of us alive. And we call each other and say, welcome to the club. So that's, to work a perfect game, it was kind of cool because I got phone calls from several retired, and active umpires. So it was really kind of cool to say, well, and then since it's happened, I think I've got to call a couple guys and say, hey, welcome to the club. So it's really, really kind of cool.
That's a pretty cool experience. Somebody just commented here, and I'd say without me telling you who it is, you probably know who it is. He wanted to know if his she shed was still covered.
Yeah, tell Larry Bailey. Got to be who it is.
Yeah, exactly. So another question.
Golf cart's still covered.
There you go. He's watching. Another question is when you're behind the plate, and of course you've got somebody that out there today that throws 100 miles an hour. Then you have like a Tim Wakefield that throws a knuckleball. I mean, is there a certain pitch that's harder to pick up? You got a knuckleball that goes everywhere. I mean, start up here and come way down here in this way. I mean, is it hard to pick up some of these pitches, one harder than the other?
It goes back to one of the things about it, the training and seeing it time and time and time and time again. You go back to the basics on the rubber, get set, and just, follow the ball with your eyes. Take your time, slow it down. It was years ago, my mother-in-law sit over at the table. But my wife, she asked me one time, we were watching a game, and she said, what does it look like when the ball's coming in? And how, sometimes when my eyes get going really good, how it looks coming in slow-mo, like they'll be behind the screen, and they'll show the slow-mo of the ball coming in. That's what it looks like. I mean, honestly and truly, there's times I can see when my eyes are going really, really, really good. I'm rested, not been traveling a bunch, and usually about May, I get in a groove. I can see the stitches. I mean, guys say there ain't no way. Yeah, I've picked up the writing. I've actually picked up a scuff on the ball and thrown a ball out because I could see the scuff on the ball coming in.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, but the thing of it is, you got to remember, that's 20 plus years of doing this. In the minor leagues for 8 years, it was every other day. And then in the big leagues, it was every other day. I mean, it's, there's been a lot of years of doing this and seeing that. It's muscle memory. Your mind is nothing more than in your eyesight. it's the muscle memory. And clubs now do so much visual training. It's amazing sometimes. So, people sound like there's no way. Yeah, way. But I've been doing it you got to remember, I've been doing it a long time. And I work at it. I really, really work at it. And then the concentration level, you got to be locked in for the 3.5 hours you're out there. So it's just, especially some of those playoff games. Some of my best games behind the plate have been in playoff games, and it's one time you can't miss. And, at some point I know if I work long enough, if I've worked some of this, you are going to fail. That's the biggest thing you realize. And, failure's not allowed on my side of the ledger. But we fail. We're human. That's the thing I don't think people really realize. You were laughing earlier. My dog was barking at my cat. I live out in the country, and we got an outside cat, because if we didn't, we'd have mice everywhere. But people don't realize we're real people. We make mistakes. God didn't make me perfect. Lord knows God didn't make me perfect. So, and it's part of it. You have to learn to understand that and move on.
It's like Tom Browning, they call him Mr. Perfect. And then I asked him one day, I said, the last time he was up time in dinner, I said, has your wife ever called you Mr. Perfect? Does she think that way? And he said, well, she said I was only perfect for an hour and 48 minutes. So here's Brandon Walker. He's on here. He says, hi. Kevin Dugan has a good question for you. He said, with the bang bang plays, do you rely more on your eyes or on your ears?
The older I get, both.
Both.
Because, a lot of times I'll be watching the back, on a force play, watching the bag and listening for the glove. But, with instant replay now, it sounds crazy, but speed of light's faster than the speed of sound. You'll see something before you hear it. So you really, sometimes you just got to get yourself back and see it. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you think about it, you see something before you hear it. So, we've learned to adjust. It's just the tag play. Sometimes you just, it's hard looking at two different spots, but it goes back to the basics of all the years you got taught, your timing, your distance. But the big thing is your timing. People don't realize that, we call it the pucker power when you're in front of 25, 35, 55,000 people, when it's a bigger game, playoff game, certain teams against each other, to be able to control your emotions and slow everything down in your mind to take your time to make a call. And people don't realize that, it's just not walk out there and say ball strike, say foul. It's hard. It's extremely hard. So,
yeah. Also, I know that you were in the 2008 All-Star game and the 2011 World Series. That's got to be a great experience just to be in those kind of games, and that's got to be a memory you're going to cherish for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I've got a picture, old Yankee Stadium, the boys walking down in the tunnel. Of course, the old Yankee Stadium isn't there anymore. The World Series, we had a good time. I'd like to get back sometime soon. I got hurt last year, but we're going to knock on the door again and see what happens. So I'd like to work a couple more, but those games are hard. If you check out my resume, I am the proverbial bridesmaid, not a bribe. There are guys that's got 2, 3, World Series, and I've got more playoff games than them. I'm the guy that, and it's just, God's got a plan. I always try to say that. I get disappointed. I've got goals. I'd like to work. It's not the ego thing. It's just you want to get out there and see if you can do it again. It's can I do that again, and can I do a good job? Can I be successful? And so we want to try to get a couple more before we retire.
You're talking about injuries there and being behind home plate with some of the balls coming in, bouncing or 100 miles an hour. You've had a few injuries, haven't you?
Yes. I've had 4 concussions. I've had broken collarbone, bruised liver, fingers, toes. When my middle son Cameron was born, this was hilarious. I'd worked I came home on Sunday night, and Michelle went in the hospital on a Monday. Cameron was born on a Tuesday, I believe. I had got Reggie Sanders was playing. It was the Reds and the Cardinals and the Brewers, and Reggie Sanders fouled off a ball, and it hit right on my right bicep. And Michelle went into the hospital. I had a short sleeve shirt on, and they would come in. Michelle's getting ready to give birth to Cameron, and they would come in to check her, and then they'd look at my arm and they go, "Oh my gosh!" I mean, my arm was huge. I mean, it was. So yeah, I mean, it's part of it. You're going to get hurt. It's if you're stepped between the white lines any at all, if you're a player or umpire, you're going to get hurt. That ball will find you, and everybody's like, "Well, you wear a mask, you have equipment." I'm like, "Yeah, let me put a mask on and hit you with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball coming off the bat and see how well you stand." So, but there's times too, like I've had a couple concussions that's been really bad, and they'll show it over and over and over and over. And of course, my mom and dad watch just about every game. My wife can't stand they show it. So, yeah, it happens.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got your crew. Now, does this crew, is it the same crew that you keep all year, or does the other umpires coming in and out of your crew, is it just set for the whole year?
We start, they assign us a crew. We know who we're going to be with for the whole year. We know our schedule for the whole year. Okay. But the last couple of years, one of the roles I've had is I go fill in as a fill-in crew chief, or if they've got a big series, they'll put me in there. So, it's one of those, if somebody gets hurt the last minute, they'll call me and then, they'll move me. So we had a great crew this year, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you about your schedule. That just like the ball teams does is that, like before the season starts, so you could be in New York City one day and then Los Angeles the next, couldn't you?
That has happened. That's a rarity, but I've had that happen. Last year, this was a good one. I left. I'd been home, had a day off on Monday. I got to Denver on Tuesday. I had to be in San Francisco on Wednesday. Worked a day game in San Francisco on Thursday. Went to Phoenix. Had Phoenix Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then back to, I think it was St. Louis or Milwaukee for Monday. So yeah, and then last year I covered all 4 time zones in 5 days. I went Oakland, Denver, Houston, Atlanta. Was in Oakland on Sunday, Denver on Monday, Houston on Tuesday, Wednesday, day game Thursday, and was in Atlanta on Thursday night. So we had a weekend series in Atlanta. So yeah, last year that was like second week of September, last week of August. Yeah. So I mean, a couple years back when I was with Sam Holbrook, I had 30 days straight, twice, no days off, all 4 time zones. So to jump, I mean, we were jumping back and forth, and yeah, it was. So people don't realize the travel, the grind.
No.
It really wears you out. So.
No, and there used to be National League umpires and American League, but now you could be National League one day, and one series, and American League the next series, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2000 they combined the staffs. I got hired as a National League umpire. I'm kind of proud of that. Our guys, yeah, we're just kind of, I was hired a National League umpire. I'm proud of that. But we work all that. Those things have kind of gone away. The guys I came up under, Frank Pulley, Harry Wendelstead, those guys. So I was, and I grew up a Reds fan. I'll say it. I was a Reds fan. I was a Reds fan up until 1991 when I had to throw Sam Mejias out of a ball game in Princeton, West Virginia. So yeah, I grew up a Reds fan. Listened to Marty and Joe. Big Red Machine. I can name you everybody. So I've been a baseball fan my whole life. But the fan, yeah, it gets knocked out of you. So now it's funny too because the people will laugh. I'm not a very good fan. I love to watch sports, but I'm not. It's like okay, because I'm watching the officials.
Yeah.
And I'm pulling for the officials. I'm not. You don't get rid of this after 30 years. You just
no.
You want to make sure the officials do well. So,
has there been a game that's been more memorable for you than any other game, or has there been a happening that's happened while you've been on the field that just sticks out in your memory?
The first time I ever working the plate in Cincinnati, I looked up at the stands and, my wife and my mom are both crying because, that was a big day for me.
Yeah.
Going back on the field after 9/11, working the playoffs after 9/11 in New York City, that was pretty big. When we get back out there, I think this is going to be pretty big when fans, when we get back in the ballparks and fans get back in the ballparks, I think it's going to be a big. I look forward to that. I look forward to what that will be like. There's a lot of things. There's a kind of a thing that for me, my personal memory, I like when a full moon's over a ballpark. I've got memories of full moons over a ballpark from minor, it's just kind of memories in my mind that stick out, but I've been told I ought to write a book. I'm like, so I don't know who'd want to buy it, but.
Well, I know somebody that could probably write it for you. He's wrote a couple. Matter of fact,
maybe one of these days when I slow
down. Matter of fact, my next question, and it kind of relates to what he's doing or talking about here, because I was going to ask you about it, is what do you do in the off season? And Larry put on here, Greg has his insurance business and has all my items, cars, house, ball card, etc. And he said that check his insurance company really beat my previous company, State Farm. And I had been with him since 1987, he says.
Well, thank you, Larry. We worked at it about 6 years ago. A buddy of mine calls me up, had lunch with me, and said, "Hey, you ought to think about doing this." And I was like, eh. And then my agent said, "Hey, you ought to think about doing this." So 2015, there's a couple things that happened. And let's just say that I picked up the phone and I called, and anyway, I got recruited by State Farm. I was actually an agent in waiting with State Farm, passed everything. I went to work for Bob Meanick Insurance there in Flatwoods. Bob, everybody in Greenup County, Lewis County, everybody knows Bob. Bob took me under his wing, was my mentor, still is my mentor. Still, there's times I call him, he calls me, and so kind of like baseball. I've got my teachers. I've had some of the best. Bob's one of the best, still one of the best. So, it's one of those things where, it was love. It wasn't a marrying kind of love. My wife laughs. I wore State Farm everywhere. And now, then I left State Farm. It was kind of like one of those things that Bob kept talking to me. Some other guys kept talking to me. And I just decided that, I need to I wanted to do commercial, which is kind of my niche, kind of what I really enjoy to do. I'll do anything, but commercial, someone's business, someone's livelihood, I enjoy tackling that. And insurance is just like being an umpire. You're a necessary evil. So I laugh when everybody says this is pressure, because I'm like, this is not pressure. But I got my license. I started into this. I went back to college. Actually, one of the things that some of the higher ups used to say, well, where'd you get your degree, or where'd you get your management skills? And I'd want to say, because I had to take all these tests and all these modules, and I would pass it. They would call and say, well, we've never, how you never got a degree, you never went to school. And I said, you guys don't understand. I've been managing baseball games for 20 plus years. This is managing, 25 guys on one side and 25 plus guys on the other side. You learn how to handle people and how to talk to people. And, so it was one of those things, and it just seemed like a fit. I went with Adam Yeager in Huntington, West Virginia for a year with Thornburg, and 18 months. Adam was awesome, taught me a lot. And it just got to the point where I told my wife, and I said, look, I want to do this on my own. I want to see if I can be good at something else. I got my degree, got my minor in risk management and insurance. While we've been off through all this time, I took working towards my CIC. I took my first CIC class, commercial property. I don't want to be just the major league umpire that got an insurance license. It's funny because when I got home last year, there's a commercial client that I was working to try to get his business. And he stood there laughing as I was measuring some things and looking at some things. And he says, this is so surreal. He says, you were on the field yesterday in Dodger Stadium, and now you're down here measuring my building. And it's funny because they want to talk baseball, and then when we start talking insurance, they're kind of like, you kind of know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, I got vested. I wanted to let people know I'm vested in this. I'm just not,
Yeah.
I really work. I work as hard as this as I did when I first started umpiring. I mean, because I want to be, I'm never going to have the Bob Meanick experience of 40 years. Never. I mean, too late in the game. But I can have the education side that a lot of the agents, don't have. So, the team that I have with me, Carla Martin was with Bob for 25 plus years, and Teresa Songer was with Bob Melvin for 26 plus years. Rich Mahar, he was he does a lot of our Medicare and other investment stuff, and kind of my son Kyle, he comes in and does some things. So it's been really good, and we have fun with it. We work hard at it, and we've kind of got a little family. It's so, but I was at the office till 6:15 tonight, so I work.
So if somebody wants
realize, my dad pastored church in Vanceburg. Nobody remembers. They see me here and now. They don't know the Greg Gibson years ago that cut grass and did I grew up working. So to not work, I'm just not the guy to, don't get me wrong. I like to pick up a fishing rod. I like to go relax, but my wife gets aggravated. We've got kind of a semi-hobby farm. I'll come home on an off day, bush hog for 5-6 hours. I enjoy, to work, and especially it's something that, I enjoy people. One of the biggest things that I feel like I've gotten out of this, I make a difference when a young couple, I can help them, I can cover them. They got a problem, they call me. Several widow ladies this past January, I really helped them out. So, I feel like I'm kind of making a difference, and it's, I really enjoy getting up, going to my office, working. I mean, and we put some hours in. We work hard at it. But I enjoy. People look at me like you're nuts. I'm like, the guys I work with, they're like, you're nuts. I'm like, no, I really enjoy it. So I get calls in the locker room when I'm on the West Coast. My phone kicks on at 6 a.m. I tell people I signed on for this. Don't hesitate to call me. And they're like, and it's one of the things about it. I've had to make myself vulnerable for things like this. People will tell you, my wife tell you, mom and dad tell you, I came home and hid. For years, it was funny. I'm from the same hometown as Charlie Rutherford. And I bet I'd been in the big leagues for 10 years. And Charlie and I would be somewhere in Ashland together. And they still thought I worked at the Bank of Ashland. They did not realize that I was also a major league umpire. So, when I started my business, I started using, my so-called, whatever you want to call it, notoriety. But at the end of the day, I tell people we're honest. There's a lot of times I'd say stay right where you're at. You're in a great spot. It's not about just selling. It's about really taking care of my friends and my community. And it's allowed me really to give back to my community. Last week we went down. We fed 150 people at King's Daughters Hospital. We fed, it's really kind of cool. My mom retired from housekeeping. We fed the housekeeping staff, the valet staff, the people that deliver the meals, the people that and I don't mean this to downplay what doctors and nurses do, but without the cleaning staff and the housekeeping and all the people making food, without your, behind the scenes people. And I was laughing and joking. I said, it's kind of like the umpires, without me, you don't have ball game.
It's true.
I hate to say it. Of course, everybody's all about the players, and I get that. People, I like watching the game too, but without the clubhouse people, without the ticket people, without the, you can't, they don't realize what it takes for a major league game and then for a hospital to operate. So it was really kind of cool. Through my years, I've had contacts with a lot of good companies, All-Star Equipment for one. We were able to donate there was a new league that started here. Jared and Lance Caesar, the Cal Ripken, and they had over 235 kids come out. And it was, I've known both those young men for a very, very long time. And, when they said they were starting this and Jared got a hold of me, I was like, how can I help? We got all the catcher's equipment. I've got some very good contacts with All-Star. It costs a little money, but I'm making a little money. And so one of the things we try to do is we give back to our community. without, I want kids with a baseball in their hand. I want kids out. I can't wait. It's through all this COVID. I live up here close to a neighborhood, Briarwood. You see kids out playing, riding on their bikes, playing, through all this. So I can't wait to be able to know kids are back on a baseball field and playing. So, that's one of the ways right out of the chute we tried to give back. With all that, there was a lot, all the catchers gear. And one of the things about it, wearing, and I'll give them a plug, I wear All-Star. Those guys have been great to me. And so I wanted to make sure those kids had the best of the best they could get. I just didn't want to buy just anything. The girls' softball equipment is, the boys, when as you get older, from 10, 11, 12 up, it's top of the line. The younger kids stuff is just because it was the best they had, but it's not the quality that All-Star puts into the catcher's gear is unbelievable for the girls. It is the top of the line because they only make one line and it's the best. So those contacts through the years, meeting people like that, I'm using it to try to help give back to my community.
So you have your insurance company there in Ashland. Do you have a website or anything you can put out there where people can look at it, or a number they can call your insurance company?
www.greggibsoninsurance.com. We're getting our website, our page redone here in the next few weeks. So if you see it down, that's why. I've got a new host, Greg Gibson on Insurance on Facebook. Constantly go on there, look at us, like us, follow us. I always, and when I advertise, I do most of my advertising on Facebook, and I always make sure to hit, Lewis County, Round County, all the way down through there. So I get it. Have truck, can travel. My truck's wrapped. My boys tease me and make fun of me. They call it the Greg Gibson mobile. I work. I'll go sit down at a coffee table before all this, kitchen table. Go right to their house. It's just technology. It's web based, just like this. So we the companies we represent, we have the ability to do that, and we just I feel like we do a really great job. We do a good job with what we do.
And Larry,
my team always laughs because being a new agent, I'm not going to lie. I'm very transparent. I've made a few mistakes. So when I make a mistake, I go get a pie from Bob Evans and I deliver it. I've only had to buy 3 pies so far. But there's been a few things that I've messed up. We fix it. We take care of it. We don't lie. We don't stand and point fingers, just like umpiring. When I make a mistake, I stand there and that's right. I made a mistake. Guess what? We're going to do our best to get it right next time. We're going to treat you right always. We're always going to treat you right. But, I think we do a good job. I think we do a great job.
So Larry Bailey says it's Erie Insurance.
I've got Erie, Kentucky National, Foremost, Modern Home on the personal PNC side. I've got a company in Manning called Openly. I've actually gotten contacted lately by 2 Berkshire Hathaway companies. Warren Buffett backed money. So it's just an option. There's great companies out there and great agents. I don't ever knock anybody. Like I said, I've had nothing but good things to say about, State Farm was a great company, good to me. Bob Meany, can't get any better than that guy. But there's great agents with other agencies, and it's relationship building. Your insurance is only as good as your agent. And, people are amazed that, like in spring training, I would be in the locker room and fight, taking care of a problem. So we roll up our sleeves and go to work for them.
One thing that we have the insurance that we've got to look for is when we play like the showcase at Whitaker Bank Ballpark with some of the high school baseball teams, and then we've got the alumni games coming up, and you've got to get insurance to cover you with those games in case somebody gets injured. And we've had it with Chappelle and different ones. I didn't know if that's something you could cover or not.
Give me a call.
Okay. I appreciate that.
One of my teachers, we'll treat you so right, you're bound to like one. We'll treat you so many different ways, you're bound to like one of them.
There you go. Larry Bailey has a question here. What do you like or what do you dislike the most about your job? Is it the travel? It says players can get a day off. How many days have you been off? And like have you ever thought, what city am I in now?
Oh yeah, we walk to the plate meeting all the time, and they'll say, first game of series, say, where are you guys coming from? And we'll do this. It's like, and what's really bad is like you're supposed to be in 917, and you go to 719 because that was the room you were in the town before. So yeah, there's times. One of the things that's been hardest about my job is my boys growing up and missing out on things. That's one of the things about it. When I do retire, now I'm done. I mean, there's several. Charlie Relaford works for the office. There's a lot of guys that's worked for Major League Baseball. The last thing in the world I want to do once I retire is to say I can't go to one of my grandkids' events because I got to go cover a ball game. I'm done. I honestly mean this. I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, but the day I retire, I'm going down to the Greenup Dam. I promised this myself years ago. I'm going to take my equipment trunk and I'm going to throw it into High River. I had a bad season a couple years ago, and I built a big bonfire out back at the farm here. I went out there and burned my trunk and about everything in my trunk because it was just one of them years I wanted to forget. But what I've been blessed. I love being on the field. I really, really, really do. A lot of things that come with that now, not so much. The travel's gotten old. My body's gotten tired, beat up. I'm not a young man anymore, and it's taking its toll. But the time I have left, I enjoy. And I tell players, I tell kids, I tell everybody, there comes a day they make you take the uniform off. There comes a day when they don't let you put it on anymore. Enjoy every day you get a chance to put a uniform on, because there comes a day, and Dave, you know this, probably better than anybody I've ever talked to. You know this better than anybody. Yes. There comes a day when you just don't get it. You can't put it on anymore, and it kills you, and you want to. But you have to look back, and you have to be blessed for the time you have and enjoy the time you have. And then after the fact, this is the one of the things that I enjoy is, the relationships I build through baseball that I'll have after baseball. I tell the young guys I work with now, there's coming a day when Gibby knocks on the door, comes in, brings his grandkids, visits everybody, watches 3 innings, gets a cone of ice cream, and leaves. So I look forward to that day. But I enjoy the time I have left. I'm going to enjoy it.
Exactly.
I've been blessed.
Exactly. We have Christine Bennett that says hello. Mike Long was asking about what company is he with, which we already covered that. This year, if we get baseball started or whatever, I mean, how hard is it going to be with this year? Because I know we've got like the COVID-19 pandemic, everything going on. I mean, will you just like be gone the whole time? You really can't really come home or anything, can you?
We don't know. I will say, the only thing I will say is this: unless this thing rears its ugly head bad again, we are 99.9 a go.
Good.
There is a lot of information going to be coming out, I feel, very soon. There's a lot of things that we're told. It's very, there was things in the media the other week about our guys. I'm not going to go into that, but we want baseball to happen. We love what we do. We know that America everybody's like, well, there are no fans in the stands, whatever. I'll tell you how desperate America is for sports. The other Thursday night, my wife and I sat on our couch right in there, and we watched the NFL draft. Never in my life, let alone hers, and I married the most non-sports fan in the world. We sit and watch the NFL draft for at least an hour. So you can't tell me that they won't watch it if it ain't on television, because America is hungry for sports, and they want to see us back. They want to watch, you guys want to watch the Reds? I want you to watch the Reds. I tell people every year, I have a job because you guys are baseball fans, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So I want you to be baseball fans again and enjoy root for your favorite teams. And, it's part of America. So we want to get back to being America. But 99.9, we're a go. We're a go.
The other day, you talk about how desperate people are to watch sports. I guess they had the Turtle Derby. At the Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah.
Instead of the horses, instead of the fastest 2 minutes in baseball is like the slowest hour in race. I mean, fastest 2 minutes in racing is like the slowest 2 hours or whatever in racing.
Yeah. So we're going to get back. Let's just, one of the things about it, we got to hope and pray. And one of the biggest things, the health and safety of everybody. You don't want anybody to get this and pass, so they're being careful. But I think when we're ready to go full throttle, we're going.
There's Kevin Gray here. He got a good question for you. He said, what are your thoughts on the Astros saga?
No comment.
I figured that was coming.
That was off limits for it. Tell him I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I told you earlier, Dave, when I retire, there's a lot of things I can say. But right now,
exactly.
And the thing of it is, my job is not to be, my job is to be fair. My job is not to judge anybody.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I was going to mention before we get off here, the Diamond Dinner this year, which we don't know. It's according to how, baseball, when it gets started and what the state allows us to do. We usually do it the second week of November, but baseball might be running through that. Last year, and, like I said, we might have to do it in December, but last year you showed up. It was like the last minute. I got a call, and they said Greg Gibson wants to come, and I thought, Greg Gibson, you kidding me? But, that was a big thrill for me that you came to the Diamond Dinner. I had Don Gullett there. I've had, we had Al Oliver, Tom Browning, Ron Oster. We've got Steve Delaparre there. And then we had Greg Gibson, and which was pretty cool.
Like I said that night, you guys don't realize I enjoy hearing the stories just as much as you guys.
Yeah.
One of the things about the banquets and the things like that is I get to see people that I was on the field with. I get to see people I've made relationships with over the years, like, Al Oliver. Don Gullett was on the bench when I was a young umpire. I tell a story about Don yelling at me one time. I mean, it's funny because, I've got a Bible that Don Gullett signed for me as a little boy. So, it's one of those things I enjoy those. I mean, I could sit and talk baseball. I mean, I love the events like that because, one of the things about the Portsmouth banquet, I get to see Brett Roberts, who pitched in the minor leagues. It was funny because we'd be in the minor leagues together, and our moms, mom and dad was living in Franklin Furnace at the time. So our moms were working at Nancy Ray grocery store together. And it was hilarious because we'd be like, you talk to your mom, we would speak, it was, so, there's been a lot of things over the years. And then a lot of guys from the area, Josh Newman from Wheelersburg, he balked twice in the same inning. And I walked out and I told him, I said, if you don't stop balking, there's no way I'm ever getting out of Kroger and Wheelersburg again alive. And then he laughed and calmed down. I mean, it's one of those things where, we've got funny stories to tell on the guys I've run into over the years. So when it comes to events and things like that, I enjoy them just because, it's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy getting to see the guys again. So it's a big fraternity. It really is. And as you get older in this, when I first started doing this when I was early in my career, I was quiet, shy. I didn't say a whole lot. But now I enjoy it. I enjoy getting to meet people, talking to people, So it's for me, it was a lot of fun. I'm glad, I got invited to come down. And I really just wanted to sit in the background, even just, enjoy. Because for me, that's fun. I enjoy hearing Al Oliver talk all the time. So.
Yeah, it was great for you to be there. It's great for us to have you there, and hopefully this year you can make it again, and we'll get some of your stories there. We're planning to move it to Mesa. I'll get a place down there that actually sets more people because this year the place we had it for the last couple of years set 150 people, and it's a little crowded in there.
Yeah, it is. But, for me, it was kind of cool because, my dad pastored a church in Vanceburg. Some of my earliest childhood memories are in Vanceburg, Kentucky. So for me, it was really, kind of cool. There's a lot of people that's passed on and stuff, but there's still some people that, remember my dad when my dad pastored down there. So, for me, I enjoyed getting a chance just to come down to, it was funny because right around the corner was where Baker's used to be.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember all that stuff. So,
exactly.
Going in Baker's as a little boy and it was just other things. So,
And, having it there in Vanceburg, I mean, I think they asked, it was either Tom Browning or Ron Oster, if they ever heard of Vanceburg before, and they said no, but said, we'll never forget it.
That's a lot of places in our area. So.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we've been on here quite a bit tonight, and I appreciate you coming on tonight, Greg. I was nervous when you first come on here because you're an umpire. You intimidate me. I didn't know if you was going to throw me off Facebook or what was going on. But is there anything you'd like to say to everybody before we sign off?
Just, when we go back at it, say a prayer for us, remember some prayer. We want to get back. We want everybody to be safe. But the biggest thing is it's going to be different. We're all going to be something different. I've said to people, we're going to have to be socially aware. I think we've been insulated where we live. And it's one good time that you're glad to live in the hills of Kentucky because, we've not had, I've talked to friends of mine and stuff in New York City and we can't imagine what they've been through. We can imagine what the people in the Northeast, especially, it's been right down scary. So, yeah, everybody says, well, I don't see it around. What's because where we live. You go to New York City and it was bad. So I've talked to people up there when this was first going down, and there were people there was a genuine fear and the anxiety of all that. So have we done what we needed to do? Yeah, but now it's time. We got to start. I think we've bent the curve, and now it's time. But just when we go back, everybody just remember all of us in prayer, and remember that all of us, no matter what, we're all doing our best.
Already, and
Major League field, everybody's doing their best because nobody wants to look like an idiot on national television or regional television. I always love when I get the phone calls. What were you thinking? Well, maybe I just messed up. So anyway, you appreciate you having me on. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being on here. Friday night, we're going to have Perry Thacker on here with the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame, which he told a few stories up there at the Diamond Dinner this year. So He'll have some good ones to tell, but we'll be back on here Friday at 8 o'clock. But I appreciate you. I really did, Greg, being on here. Thanks for everything that you do. Thanks for being a part of the Diamond Dinner and helping us out. And I look forward to seeing you again this year.
David, hopefully we'll be in touch. Yeah. And if we can be there, bud, we'll be there. So give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you, Greg.
See you, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.